from hook form we do hook form resolvers Zod. That's the one we need. And inside of here, we need our Zod resolver. So let's head back inside of package JSON. We do have hook form resolvers right here. Just double check you have that as well. You should have all of this because we have added the form component from Часть, which automatically installed everything for us here. Great, and we can now add a resolver here. So resolver, Zod resolver, and simply passing create, form schema here. And for the use form, you can also add z.infer type of form schema, like this. There we go. Now our form is strictly typed right here. Great. So now what I want to do is I want to import some other things from form, which we're going to need. So let's go ahead and prepare that. So these are all the possible things you can import from form. So we're going to need the form control, form field, form item, but we're not going to need form label. We're not going to use that. So just form control, form field, form item, and form message here. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's wrap our form here inside of this form component from our UI components form, and let's just indent the entire thing. And inside of here, you would simply spread the form like this. And then let's go ahead and modify this to be our form field, and it will use the render and get the field. And then inside of here, we're going to go ahead and add our input inside of that render. So that's how you use React hook form. Now let's go ahead and add the name which this form field controls, which is email, like this. And we also have to pass in the control to be form.control. And let's go ahead and wrap this input inside of render, inside of a form item component, like this. And what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the value. We're going to remove the onChange. We're going to remove the required. We're just going to leave the placeholder disabled and type. Actually, we don't even have to hold the disabled. What we can just do is spread the field. So that's the cool thing about React hook form. This field will have all the controllers, right? So on blur, on change, value, disabled, name. So we don't have to pass those manually. We just spread the field and it reads the properties from these schemas right here. That's how it knows what type is it and everything else. Great. So I think that if I now visit my sign in component, there we go. I can already control this. And if I go ahead and add, let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's also add .trim and .minimum here. Or maybe we don't need to add .minimum if we have email. Let's see. If I click login, okay, I think I still do. So a minimum 1. And let's add the message required. If I submit now, okay, let's see. Inside of the form item, I think I forgot to add another thing here, which is form control around my input. And outside of the form control, I need form message, like this. And still, okay, not exactly working as I expected, but I think that's because of this field right here. So I'm just going to remove it for now. And okay, so now I know what's going on. Well, we have to modify this form to actually handle our onSubmit. So let's do this. Let's do const onSubmit, values z.infer, type of form schema. So the same as our Zod resolver above. This is a very simple arrow function, which is simply going to console log the values. And now let's go ahead and modify the native form element here and override its onSubmit to be form handle submit, and then pass in your onSubmit method here. So now I think. If you click login, there we go. You get back an error which says required. And let's see, can I now maybe remove this .minimum value here, and can it simply use the email address? There we go. Now it works. I don't even need the trim, I think. There we go, because it is an invalid email. Perfect. And for the password, we are going to need to define some things. So it's going to have a minimum of 8 characters. And let's add the message for that as well. Like that. And then we can just copy this entire form field here. Change this one to the one we just copied to control the password. Give it a type of password and enter password here. There we go. You can see that now we have those controls here. But here's a tip for you. Whenever you're developing a sign-in component, don't define the minimum value of characters. Well, make it at least 1, like this, and just make it required. So the reason I'm telling you this is, let's say you initially allow your users to create passwords with 6 characters, right? And then you have accounts in your database which have created their account with 6 characters. And then a year later, you modify it to be a minimum of 8 characters. And then you go to your login screen and you limit your users to a minimum of 8 characters. What happens with all of those accounts who a year ago created their account with 6 characters? So that's why I want you to create a minimum requirement on the sign up screen where user is registering. So there it's fine. But when logging in, no need for that. Great, so we now modified our sign-in card to actually use the React hook form like this. And if I go ahead now and open this, I'm gonna zoom in here and I type test. This is still invalid email, and .com, and click now. There we go. You can now see the values and you can see my email and my password right here. Great. So before we wrap up the chapter, let's do this exact thing inside of our sign up card. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy these imports. Let's go inside of the sign up card. Let's add all those imports here. Great. And let's copy the hook form, use Zod and the Zod like this. Then let's go ahead and let's define the form schema here. Let's paste it inside of the sign up card. And in here, you can add a minimum of 8 characters. So minimum of required, like that. And then let's go ahead and let's add the constant form and the onSubmit, and let's copy it inside of the sign up card here. And this will also have a name. And let's also add a name inside of the form schema here. So I'm going to go ahead and make it at least 1 character. You never know how many characters other people's names can have. So I don't like to restrict this as well. So I will just say required for this, like this. And let's also ensure that you cannot just enter, white space here. For the password, I'm not going to care if they enter white space or not. Great, we have that now. And now let's go ahead and modify this as well. So I'm just going to copy my form here. And I'm going to wrap my native form around that. So now it looks exactly the same as my sign-in card. Then let's copy the onSubmit here from the sign-in card and paste it in the sign-up card to the native form element. And let's go ahead and copy one form field here, which is a self-closing tag. And let's replace this email here. There we go. So let's go ahead and enter your email. So this is sign up, so enter email address. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And now I'm just going to copy this, replace it and replace your name as well. So this will control the name field, type will be text, enter your name like this. Let me just indent this and I will copy this and I will replace the password input with that as well. So this will control the password, the type will be the password, and this will be enter your password. and all of them have form messages here, and I think this should now work just fine. So if I go inside of my sign up method now, and if I click login, there we go. And I should be able to fulfill all of this. So antoniomail.com, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, login, values right here, an email, name, and password. Perfect. So you've just added React hook form to both of your sign up and sign in cards. So you have a more seamless control over your forms here, and then you can safely submit them to where we are going to use them next. Great. So just one more thing I want to do, which is inside of the layout in our auth layout right here. So inside of the app folder auth group, go inside of the layout here. And what I want to do now is I want to mark this as use client, because from here, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to render the path name. So const path name will be use path name here. Use path name like this. And then we have to import use path name from next navigation. So let me just move these imports in the order I like them, like that. And then, depending on where we currently are, we are going to display either sign up or login. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. If path name is /sign in that case, show sign up as the button. Otherwise, show login as the button. Great. And one more thing I want to do is I want to import link from next link. Let's just not do the wrong import here. And we're going to go ahead and add a link inside of the button component. And it's not a good practice to add anchor elements inside of button elements. So what we can do is we can use the as child prop. So the button becomes the anchor element. And now let's go ahead and add dynamic href here. So if path name here is currently /sign in, we are going to redirect to /sign up. Otherwise /sign in. Like that. If you want to save some time, you can go ahead and define const is on sign up page, or let's go ahead and just call it is sign in. Let's be simple. So path name here will be /sign in after we define the path name, and then you can replace these two with that is sign in. There we go. Make sure you don't misspell sign up and sign in here. And I think that right now, if I go ahead and click on login, there we go. It redirects me to login. If I go ahead and click here, it redirects me to sign up. Amazing. And one last thing, just to wrap it up, is I also want to add these two functions right here in the bottom of these cards, because that's usually where your users will expect them to appear. So let's go ahead inside of my sign in card. Right here, let's go all the way to the bottom where we end our card content. Let's add a div. Let's go ahead and render a dotted separator here. Let's go ahead and give this a class name of px7. Below that, let's add another card content with a class name of padding 7, flex, items center, and justify center. And inside of the card content here, we're going to add a paragraph. Already have an account. If you do, we're going to add a link, which you have to import from next link. I'm just going to go ahead and add it here. There we go. The link will simply go to href/sign in. Well, we are in the sign in card, so this will go to /sign up. So this will be the opposite message instead. This will not be already have an account. Instead, this will be don't have an account. So don't have an account, like this. And if you want, you can replace this with and apos, like this, in case you're getting errors in your IDE, because this apostrophes can sometimes, cause errors. There we go. So if you don't have an account, we're going to redirect you to /sign up and a span here, sign up. And let's go ahead and give the span a class name, text blue 700. So if I go to login now, there we go. Don't have an account, go to sign up, and let's just go ahead and add a little a space here. So I'm just going to add at NBSP and a semicolon at the end. And this is Unicode white space. So there we go. Now we have a white space here. And that redirects to sign up. So I'm going to copy this too. So the div which holds the dotted separator and the card content. And I'm going to go inside of the sign up card. And I'm just going to go ahead all the way to the bottom after our card content ends. And I'm going to paste that here. And let's see, do I have link? I already have link imported here because we use it for privacy policy and terms. And let's just reverse the logic. So this is going to ask already have an account. And it's going to redirect to sign in. And this will say sign in. So let's go ahead and try it now. If you click on sign in, there we go. Don't have an account, sign up. Already have an account, sign in. And you can also change this up here. Amazing. What we have to do next is set up app right so we can finally create some users. Great, great job. Now let's go ahead and let's learn how to create API routes inside of Next.js. So you've learned that whenever you create a new folder inside of Next.js app folder and you put a reserved file name page.tsx inside of it, that will transform into a URL route. So that's exactly how you build API routes. The only difference is in the reserved keyword. So let's go inside of our app folder, and for example, let's create a new folder called test. And inside, instead of a page.tsx, let's add a route.ts. So a different type of reserved file name. The only thing that's important is that you created this inside of the app folder. Now inside of here, let's create a simple get function. So export function get, make sure it's all in caps like this, and simply return a response JSON and a simple hello world like this. And then you can simply go to localhost 3000/test. So I'm going to go ahead and go to /test, and there we go, hello world. One practice that you might be used to seeing is keeping API routes inside of an API folder. So if you want to, and what we are going to do is we're going to have an API folder like this, and then our API routes are going to be moved inside. I'm just going to update the imports. Looks like I have an unsaved file here. This can happen sometimes, and if you're wondering what that is, if this is your first time using Next.js, this is basically the next cache. So you can see the file route right here. It's pointing to this next folder. You don't have to worry about this file, but I don't like having unsaved files. So what I'm going to do is just go inside of that file and save it, and then I'm going to close it, just like that. So I've moved my test folder inside of my API folder. If I now refresh here, I'm going to get a 404. But if I go to localhost 3000/API/test, there we go. So this is how you build API routes inside of Next.js. That's fine. It's great. It's built in. But I have a few problems with it. Primarily, I don't like that I am losing any type interference. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to add a parameter inside of your API route, which is something that you will most likely have. So let's say inside of this API folder, I create a users folder, right? And then I want to create a specific user ID folder. So this is how I would do that. This is how you create parameters inside of URL. And then inside of that, you would add a route.ts. And then you would get this route. And from this request and response inside of here, you would destructure the user ID. So for example, inside of here, we would have request as the first argument, which can simply be a type of request. And then inside of here, we would have an object which holds params. And we would have that params. And we would manually have to define the user ID and make it a string. And then I can go ahead and say user ID is params.user_ID, like this. So inside of my API folder, users user ID route.ts. So now if I go to /API/users/1234,